With sex being such a wonderful, magnificent, God-given gift that it is, what is it that makes sexual addictions like pornography so alluring? What makes it so alluring that people are willing to bet their marriages, their careers, or experience financial ruin to pursue a cheap high? And the answer to this question, it's quite multi-layered. And the aim of this short talk, it's not to talk about the neurobiological science behind sexual addictions. And while the research itself is incredibly compelling, and we can see that people trapped in sexual addictions experience the same physiological changes in their brain that, let's say, a stimulant addict might experience. What this is more about, while all that is interesting, I'd rather talk about the fact that at the root of every sexual addiction, really any addiction for that matter, it has a relational cause. It's not as simple as just saying, well, I enjoy it. And while that may be true, it is far more complicated than just enjoyment. The genesis of a sexual addiction is about so much more than that. And the genesis begins with our greatest fear. And our greatest fear is rejection, or insignificance, or inadequacy, or incompetence. We all long to feel significant to someone. We all long to feel significant in this world, and we all long to be desired. You know, we're all created to be connected, and God created man and woman to be connected, so much so that he says in Genesis 2:24, God describes marriage as this process of two becoming one. And sexuality in a marriage, it's an incredible gift. So how does one go from wanting the real life thing to a counterfeit that only leaves someone feeling empty and ashamed? What's required for any relationship to grow is risk. And it's to take relational risks towards your husband, towards your wife, to become more fully known, fully loved, fully seen, fully accepted. And when I say risk, what I mean by this is we have to risk rejection. We have to risk feeling weak, incompetent, inadequate, all the things that nobody ever wants to experience. And it's in this process of risking connection, of putting ourselves out there, where disordered desire begins to take shape. And that's how I reference pornography addiction or other sexual addictions, is it's really disordered desire. Sexual addictions in pornography, they give powerful promises. And these are promises that are so powerful, we actually believe the lies that are embedded in them. And so briefly, I'm just going to talk about 3 of the promises that pornography offers. And the first promise it offers is that I get to experience the validation of my manhood without requiring strength. And for a woman, she gets to experience the validation of her femininity without the submission to masculinity. Pornography won't ever roll over in bed and complain about our performance. Pornography won't ever shut the door and say, I'm too tired. And those are risks that occur frequently in marriages. With this false promise, I would like for you to consider a question. Where in your life do you feel the most competent or capable? Is this at work? Is it on the ball field? Is it with your friends? Or is it in your marriage? And why? If you don't feel the most competent at home or in your marriage, ask yourself, why do I feel so insignificant there? Why do I feel so weak in front of my wife? Or why do I feel so weak in front of my husband? Why do I feel like no matter what I do, it'll never be enough? Ponder those questions. The second promise that pornography offers us is it promises intimacy without the risks inherent in relationships. I don't have to take risks that could cause rejection, pain, suffering, and pornography is able to kill the desire for closeness in my most meaningful relationships. And the third promise that pornography offers is that it offers a momentary escape from the reality of our pain, at least for a moment. Pascal wrote that the way to render someone happy is to engage them with an object that will allow them to forget their private struggles. If I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling lonely, irritable, or hurt, sexual addictions and lust, it initially does help us to deal with the emotions that we don't want. Ultimately, addictions, they're strategies we use to keep the truth from ourselves by blinding us from seeing what is actually true about us. Addiction, it gives us permission to remain in denial. Addiction is a refusal to suffer and struggle in sorrow. Now, if you remember anything from this video, remember this. Every sinful behavior is rooted in a God-given, legitimate desire for something good. But as a result of pain and as a result of disappointment, we forfeit those desires, and rather than reach for what we long for, we take what we can settle for. So if any of this talk has disrupted you or convicted you, I would encourage you to take some time to consider and reflect on all the places in your life that you feel weak. And then I would ask you to consider, what strategies have I put in place to cope with this? Do I avoid hard conversations with the people that I love? Do I communicate with my spouse what my needs are in my marriage? Do I feel like my marriage is too far gone to do anything about it? Do I live in a place of ambivalence with everything? 2 Corinthians 12:9, Paul's begging to have the thorn in his flesh removed, and he begs God 3 times, to which God finally responds with, "My strength is made perfect in your weakness." So keeping this verse in mind, consider what it might look like to turn towards your weakness, to turn towards your inadequacies in a show of trust and faith in the fact that God can, in fact, show up and do something miraculous in your weakness. And if you're not sure how to do this, or you feel like you've done this, or you've tried everything already, please reach out to one of us at Renew Clinic, and we'll see if we can help you or get you to someone that can.